Imagine walking alone through empty streets at midnight. The world around you is silent, swallowed by thick fog and biting cold. The only sound is the echo of your own footsteps against the cracked pavement. The city sleeps, unaware of what's lurking just beyond the shadows. This is not a story about the monsters under the bed, this is real, chilling, and it happened in the dead of night. On a bitter December evening in 1978, in the small, fog-blanketed town of Toriglia, Italy, one man's routine patrol would turn into a nightmare that would haunt him, and the world, forever. This is the story of Fortunato Zanfreta, an ordinary night watchman who came face to face with the unimaginable. What he saw broke every rule of reality he knew. And what followed would challenge everything we believe about our place in the universe. It was around 11:30 p.m. when Fortunato Zanfreta was making his usual rounds at a remote estate known locally as Casa Nostra. The cold bit through his jacket, and the fog clung to the ground like a ghostly veil. As he moved down the lonely road, a sudden burst of light shattered the night, a bright, unnatural glow coming from inside the property's perimeter. His pulse quickened. Was it a break-in? He parked his car, gripped his flashlight tightly, and stepped into the mist. Drawing closer, the light grew brighter, yet it did not come from a house or a lamp. Instead, it shimmered from a vast, disc-shaped object hovering silently near the ground, something at least 30 feet across. Then, out of the fog, tall figures emerged. Nearly 10 feet tall, their skin wrinkled and patchy like ancient bark. Eyes triangular and glowing a haunting yellow, and feet with metallic claws clicking against the frozen earth. Zanfreta's breath hitched. Panic gripped his chest like a vice. He grabbed his radio, voice trembling, "No. These are not men." Suddenly, a wave of oppressive heat and crushing pressure swept through him. The world faded to black. Chaos erupted on the radio. Fortunato's desperate scream pierced the silent winter night, shattering the eerie calm. His co-workers, patrolling nearby sectors, dropped everything and rushed toward his last known location. The snow underfoot was slippery, crunching with every hurried step, while their radios crackled with static and urgency. When they arrived, the scene was surreal. The patrol car stood with its doors wide open, engine still running, headlights cutting through the thick fog. But Fortunato was nowhere to be seen. Panic mingled with confusion as they spread out, searching desperately. About 50 yards away, trembling and shivering uncontrollably, they found him lying on the cold snow. His eyes were glassy, his face pale with shock. He couldn't explain how he had gotten there, or even how he managed to leave the car. Nearby, the snow bore strange, deep circular imprints. No footprints, no tire marks, nothing to explain such precise, weighty impressions. It was as if the earth itself had been pressed down by something enormous and heavy, then left untouched. The cold night held its breath. Something unexplainable had happened here. News of the encounter exploded beyond the quiet hills of Toriglia. Local papers picked up the story, then national outlets followed. Headlines screamed of a night watchman who'd stared into the eyes of aliens themselves. Public opinions quickly split, half dismissing him as delusional, half fascinated by his courage to speak out. But for Fortunato Zanfreta, the aftermath was no victory. The weight of skepticism wore heavily on him. Friends began to pull away, unsure how to believe the impossible. His family voiced fears about his mental state, and a dark cloud of isolation settled in. Anxiety gripped him tightly, sleep became a stranger, and unseen eyes seemed to follow him wherever he went. The burden of knowledge, of what he had witnessed, twisted inside him, reshaping his life in ways he never imagined. In the weeks that followed, Fortunato agreed to undergo a series of hypnotic regressions, desperate attempts to unlock the fragments of memory buried deep within his mind. Each session plunged him back into the cold metallic halls of the alien craft, where the air was thick with an eerie stillness and flickering, muted lights. He felt exposed, like a specimen under watchful eyes. He described sterile rooms filled with strange machines, glowing panels he couldn't understand, and beings that communicated not with words, but through something alien and unsettling, thoughts that invaded his mind without mercy. The entities examined him with cold precision, using instruments that shimmered with unnatural light, probing his body in ways that were both terrifying and surreal. Fear mingled with confusion as he relived these moments, a prisoner between worlds, powerless but strangely alert. The experience was invasive, deeply unsettling, yet through it all, Fortunato never felt outright hostility, only an unbearable intrusion into his very being. The encounters did not end that December night. Fortunato's patrols became haunted by strange lights flickering in the distance, sudden unexplained noises, and shadows moving just beyond sight. Locals whispered of similar phenomena, flashes in the sky, guttural sounds, but most kept quiet, afraid of ridicule or worse. The psychological toll was devastating. Fortunato suffered dizzying memory lapses, dreams that blurred the line between nightmare and reality, pounding headaches, and the relentless sensation of unseen watchers in every crowd. Under hypnosis, chilling messages emerged from the beings, warnings not to interfere, cryptic hints about humanity's fate. With each meeting, the veil between the ordinary and the otherworldly grew thinner. Fortunato's mind balanced on the edge of reality, caught between truths too strange to accept and fears impossible to escape. The case of Fortunato Zanfreta attracted attention far beyond a quiet Italian village. Ufologists and researchers from around the world studied the strange impressions in the snow, reviewed his detailed accounts, and examined the psychological aftermath. To many, his story was a textbook example of alien abduction, a rare and well-documented encounter with the unknown. Yet, skeptics argued vehemently against this interpretation. They suggested that stress, isolation, and fatigue brewed vivid hallucinations and dreams that felt painfully real. Some believed the entire episode was a tragic psychological breakdown intensified by loneliness and pressure. The debate remains unresolved, splitting opinion between believers of extraterrestrial visitors and defenders of purely earthly explanations. Over the years, Fortunato faded from the public eye, retreating from media appearances and interviews. But the core of his story stayed unchanged, unwavering in its conviction. To him, the truth was simple and undeniable: they were there. I saw them. His experience left deep scars, lost friendships, family tension, and a lifelong shadow of the unknown. For ufologists, Fortunato's account remains a cornerstone in European abduction cases, a chilling reminder that something beyond our understanding stalks the night. As we gaze up at the stars, his story compels us to wonder, are we truly alone? The truth may be out there, hidden just beyond what we see. Thank you for joining me on this journey into darkness. If this story unsettled or fascinated you, subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. Until next time, keep looking up, because the most profound mysteries wait in the silence above.